If you've ever coached, played, or even just watched youth basketball, you know this debate. It is the debate, man-to-man versus zone defense. It's a choice every single coach has to make, and honestly, it can shape a player's entire future in the sport. So today, we are diving deep into this critical decision. And really, it all boils down to this one question, right? Is playing a zone defense just a smart shortcut to winning a few games with young, developing players? Or is it actually a developmental dead end that puts a cap on how good they can ever become? That's what we're here to figure out. So, we're going to tackle this from 6 different angles. We'll start with the coach's dilemma, that classic winning versus development problem. Then we'll get into how it actually affects the body and the brain. We'll even look at the bad habits it can create, what the pros around the world say about it, and then wrap it all up with the final verdict. All right, first up, let's talk about that central conflict that every youth coach, and let's be honest, every parent feels deep down. It's that constant tug of war between winning Saturday's game and actually developing players for the long haul. This slide just lays out the 2 competing philosophies perfectly. On one side, you've got the winning now mindset, which is where zone defense lives. And yeah, it's tempting. It's a convenient system, and it totally exploits the other team's lack of skill. But then, on the other side, you have the long-term development approach, teaching man-to-man defense. This is what really builds individual skill and gets kids ready for high school, college, and beyond. Okay, so let's shift gears from philosophy to the physical side of things. How does this choice actually impact a young athlete's body? We're talking about building what's called the neuromuscular engine. Think about it. In man-to-man, you are constantly on your toes guarding your opponent. That repetitive shuffle to crossover movement, it's like the ultimate leg day for a young athlete. It builds strength, coordination, and basically wires their body to be more athletic down the road. It's the engine. And here's why this is so critical. The research shows that the key window for really mastering these movements is when a kid is about 14 or 15. But here's the catch. You can't just flip a switch when they turn 14. It takes years and years of practice to build that foundation, years you might lose by sticking them in a static defense. Now, let's look at the zone. It's the total opposite. The players in the back of the zone, usually the bigger kids, they just stand there. They rarely have to move quickly. Their legs don't get that constant work, that stimulus to get stronger and more coordinated. The result? You're actually stunting their athleticism compared to kids who learn man-to-man. Okay, so we've covered the body, but honestly, the mental side of this is where the argument gets really interesting. Let's talk about cognitive load and that thing every coach hates, ball watching. Man-to-man defense is pretty simple for the brain, right? You have one job, guard your person. That's called single target tracking. But a zone? Whoa. It asks a young brain to do something incredibly difficult. It's called multi-object tracking, or MOT. They have to keep an eye on multiple players, the ball, and their own specific area of the court, all at the same time. And we've actually got the data to prove how hard this is. Studies show that expert, professional-level players can handle all that information with about 60% accuracy. But novices, which is exactly what youth players are, their accuracy plummets to just over 41%. Their brains literally can't keep up. So what happens when you overload a young player's brain like that? Well, it short circuits. It's exactly what you see in those Saturday morning games, isn't it? The kids freeze, their eyes get glued to the ball, and you get this diffusion of responsibility, where every player just assumes someone else is supposed to make the play, and the whole defense just crumbles. But it actually gets worse. We're not just talking about what happens in one play. When you teach a zone too early, you're creating what's called a hidden curriculum, a whole set of bad habits that can stick with a player for their entire career. And these are the habits that coaches at higher levels see over and over. Players get lazy guarding the ball because they know they have help behind them. They never learn how to properly close out on a shooter. They don't learn to find a body and box out because they're just guarding an area. And maybe worst of all, your bigs never learn how to guard on the perimeter, which in today's game is a total career killer. Now this leads to a pretty powerful take from the source material, a take that might even make some folks a little uncomfortable. The argument is that your choice of defense doesn't just affect your team, it affects the development of the team you're playing against. And that playing a zone can be, well, incredibly selfish and short-sighted. Just picture it. You've got a team of 9-year-olds on offense. A 2-3 zone just clogs up the middle, so what's their only option? To chuck up long-distance shots that they aren't nearly strong enough to make. So they start heaving the ball with 2 hands using these terrible mechanics that completely wreck their shooting form for years to come.
And look, if you think this is all just one coach's opinion or one particular philosophy, think again. When you look at what the major basketball organizations are doing around the world, you see a really clear consensus on this.
I mean, just look at this. It's not ambiguous at all. USA Basketball and the NBA, they flat out prohibit zone defense for kids between 7 and 11. In Spain, a basketball powerhouse, it's generally banned until you're in the under 15 leagues. And get this, in New Zealand, they have officials called zone busters at tournaments just to penalize coaches who try to sneak in an illegal zone. They are not messing around.
So where does all this leave us? Well, it all comes down to one simple, powerful idea. A philosophy that you could sum up as fundamentals first, trophies later. I love this metaphor from the source material because it says it all. Man-to-man defense is the alphabet of basketball. Once you learn it, you can apply those skills anywhere. You can write a poem, a novel, you can even play a great zone defense later on. But it never ever works the other way around. You can't just learn a zone and magically know how to play man-to-man. So here's the bottom line. Zone defense at a young age acts like a developmental crutch. Sure, it feels good in the moment, it might help you win a game, but all it's really doing is masking a player's weaknesses, their lack of quickness, their lack of accountability. And by doing that, it's actually lowering their entire long-term athletic ceiling. And that leaves every single coach, every parent, every league organizer out there with one final, very honest question they have to ask themselves. Are you coaching for this Saturday's little plastic trophy, or are you coaching for that player's actual future in the game?